I'll go with the Patriots. That they look absolutely cooked, and as of right now, I'd probably have the Dolphins seated above them in my power rankings, and I can't really see them making the playoffs unless they really turn it around.
They have added Antonio Brown. I can't lie, I'm not the biggest fan of the maneuver. But yeah, 4 receptions yet again. He's done that 5 times. He's had 4+ receptions in 5 matches in a row, which is ideal for fantasy. Say he gets 7 to 8 yards per catch. He's looking at double digits just from receiving alone. And he's obviously the main back there. No one else really gets a look in. So he's probably got one of the highest floors going around in the NFL fantasy landscape. 2 touchdowns, 1 in the air, 1 on the ground. They've got the bye this week, which isn't ideal, but then they've got Houston and Green Bay, which is pretty tasty. Both.
It's a miracle! Oh, yeah! What about that one? Unbelievable! Balotelli, Aguero! Crowd cheers. Here's Siddle. Oh, Ramal's close! He's given him! He's given him! Peter Siddle's got a hat-trick on his birthday!
Welcome back to the On The Ball podcast. This is episode 80 of the show. Once again, back for our weekly NFL episode. This is our 4th edition, I think. Might be our 3rd, I don't know. We're once again doing it all combined, real life for NFL review and a bit of fantasy talk as well. I think moving forward, we might be splitting them into 2 sections, but if you're here today to join us, we will be covering both sides of the NFL landscape today. And once again, joined by Christian Pilcher. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really excited for this. It's every week I get more excited for it, pretty much. It's now the cornerstone of my week, this potty. Love this episode very much and love the company who comes on with me. So thanks for being here, mate. Before we get into it, as always, really appreciate it if you subscribed and followed the podcast on the various things, rated, reviewed, liked, commented, all that good stuff. But we'll move into our week 7 match reviews. We're not obviously going to review every match, but match of the week, mate. We once again did not the all-nighter this time. We got a little bit of sleep, but we woke up at 4 a.m. Australian time to watch the early kickoff. So we saw a lot of footy, but what was your match of the week?
Yep, a few good matches this week, but tough to go past Seahawks Cardinals for me. I think that's a pretty consensus answer. A lot of people on Twitter and things saying it's potentially match of the year so far. Lot of up and downs, and obviously the big DK Metcalf chase that we saw, that was pretty outrageous.
Yeah, there's a lot to choose from this week. In the past few episodes, I've kind of been struggling a little bit to pick one, but I'm sure we'll talk about these maybe in the next 2 sections. But Browns and Bengals, that was pretty amazing. Baker's 5 TD performance after throwing an interception in the first quarter led the boys home. Lions Falcons, obviously there was the Todd Gurley controversy where he tried to stop before getting to the touchdown, the goal line. He fell over. That one went down to the wire. Last minute, Matthew Stafford drive, and then Steelers and Titans. That didn't look like it was going to be a good game. And then all of a sudden, it was the 4th quarter, and you're like, oh, hang on a second, we're actually on here. And if it wasn't for Gostkowski being a bit of an inconsistent Baker this year, we would have seen OT there, which I'm sure would have been exciting. But nonetheless, all of those games were great. But yeah, Seahawks and Cardinals definitely taking the cake for me. Cardinals, once again, showing how good they are, to be honest. They're definite playoff candidates now. 2 huge primetime victories in the last 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll talk about them more in the things we learned section. Most impressive victory, however, what are you going with here?
Most impressive victory, I actually went with, well, technically my boys, the Detroit Lions, getting up over the Falcons. It was a close game. It was tough to pick, but the boys got it done thanks to a Todd Gurley mishap, as you just spoke about. It was pretty disgraceful from Todd, but Stafford clutched up and got the lads over the line.
Yeah, I think obviously the Todd Gurley thing is pretty funny. It's pretty outrageous. Basically sums up the Falcons season, but I don't think enough credit is actually going to the Lions, especially Stafford. Like, they had a minute to go. It was no timeouts left. and they were down their end of the field, and he just charged to them home and finished off with the last play of the game, pretty much, TJ Hawkinson in the end zone. So yeah, I think, although obviously the headlines are going to go to Gurley because it was pretty humorous, but I do think the Lions have to be respected for this, that last minute drive, but also the Falcons' defense probably deserves to be laughed at more than Gurley, if I'm honest, because that's pretty bad from them.
The Falcons are just a joke, to be honest.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid. Pretty much all their players are on the trade block, based off all the rumors. But yeah, and now the Lions, they're 3-3. Their two of their losses have come to the Bears and Saints, and they were both within a touchdown of winning against two pretty good opponents. And now they've got the Colts, the Vikings, Washington, Panthers, Texans, and the Bears. And that's 6 matches there.
Some winnable games there.
Yeah, look, their 3 wins haven't been against the strongest of sides. You got to say that. But yeah, I definitely, out of that 6, I think they could easily get 3, if not 4, if not more wins. And then all of a sudden they're right in that playoff picture with a positive record. Because I think if you go 8-8 this year, you'll make the playoffs, given given that they've introduced the third wild card, because that usually was right on the cusp in previous seasons. But I think that might do it now. So yeah, they only need 5 wins based off that logic, and yeah, next 6 games very winnable for them. But yeah, for me, most impressive victory was the Bucks beating the Raiders. I actually had the Raiders really high. I don't do like a power rankings or anything, but if I had, I probably would have had the Raiders right up there. Probably number 4 in the AFC coming into this. I was very high on them. I thought they'd been really good to start the season. They had just beaten the Chiefs, who looked unbeatable. And yeah, that, like, to me, apart from the Chiefs, Steelers, and Titans, I thought they were the next best side in the AFC. But yeah, the Bucks dominated this one, really. They put 45 on them, and they only conceded 20, which was the Raiders' tied lowest score all season. And I might talk about it a little bit later, but I definitely think the Bucks right now are looking like the most complete team in the NFL. And the fact that they've just added Antonio Brown's pretty scary. But as I said, we'll get onto that in a couple minutes' time. Any other victories you want to point out, or do you want to go into your most disappointing loss?
No, I just brought one for each section today, but disappointing loss, definitely the Dallas Cowboys getting absolutely pounded by the Washington football team, not the Redskins. But yeah, I don't know. The Cowboys, do you reckon the Cowboys are the 4th best team in that division?
I probably wouldn't say that.
Dak?
But...
I mean,
I probably wouldn't say that. Right now they are.
Next week they're rolling out with Ben DiNucci as quarterback.
Is Dalton out? Do you know?
I think he's likely going to be out.
Oh, that's not pretty.
So yeah, Washington, they're playing Philly as well.
Yeah, Washington. We're just running through them.
Yeah,
like, I was following this game very closely because I streamed Kyle Allen and I have Terry McLaurin in fantasy, so I was looking at it very closely, pretty much following the play-by-play. And yeah, every play was Peyton Barber, 6 yards, J.D. McKissick, 8 yards, Antonio Gibson, 40 yards. It was like, what is going on? Like, they just could not stop them. Pretty much every play was 5+ yards. And for Washington to do that too, that's pretty worrying. And I still think they're a chance to make the playoffs. A very small chance at this stage. I think the Eagles will quite comfortably do it. But once again, we'll talk about that in the next section. Keep saying that, but I honestly will be talking about it there. But yeah, for me, the Cowboys, I think they'll come good. Not great. Like, they're not going to be like they were with Dak, but I think they'll become average soon. But yeah, this serious teething problems early here, and the Dalton injury is not going to help them any further. For me, most disappointing loss was that one, but the Patriots losing to the 49ers. And look, you'd probably expect them to lose. But the fashion that they lost in, 33-6, Cam got benched after the first half passer rating of 19, which was the second lowest QB rating Bill Belichick's ever had in his 25-year coaching career or something. So, yeah, pretty horrid from Cam Newton there. He's looked really off the pace the last two weeks. It's been Belichick came out and said he's 100% still the starter, but yeah, it's not looking good. I actually heard today someone on a podcast saying the Bears should trade for him, which it was a bit more of a just a concept trade. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with Cam now. People are already thinking of ways they can get him out of there.
Yeah, that's pretty
because it's
stiff,
not
I
been
reckon.
pretty.
He's
Yeah,
dealing with
he'll
an
stay.
atrocity of a receiving corps in New England. Like, they have zero weapons. Edelman's been playing like absolute dog shit. So
Yeah,
bit
and
hard on him.
their defense, like I know they had a lot of opt outs. They lost a few players over the off season, but yeah, it's not been good enough from Bill Belichick, who has always prided himself on his defense. So it wouldn't shock me though if they bounce back in the next couple of weeks. That's just the kind of thing Bill Belichick will do. They've got a lot of problems, but he is the problem-solving master. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But yeah, getting absolutely trounced on by the 49ers is not the way to do it. Things we learnt from the past week. I'll start us off. Why not? Actually, because we just talked about the Cowboys, I'll start with this point. This was my last point, but I still think the NFC East is anyone's game. I said the other week that the Cowboys are completely out of it and that the Eagles are home, but what the Eagles showed against the Giants was just pretty deplorable. Like, they lost by 1 point. They won by 1 point, to the Giants. They made Danny Dimes look like a star again. He was just running through them, and yeah, I don't know. This is the first time no one in a division has had 3 wins at this point of the season ever. Well, since the NFL merger or whatever. But yeah, Washington pumped Dallas 25-3. The Giants only went down to the Eagles by 1. Philly are now 2-4-1. Washington and Dallas are 2-5, and the Giants are 1-6. And I was having a look at some strength of schedule ratings, like the future strength of schedule rankings, and they're all got very easy fixtures because they have to play each other. But the Giants is the 25th hardest. Dallas is 26th, Philly is 27th, Washington is 29th. So I think this is actually going to be probably a bit more of an entertaining race than we would have expected. And like, for example, I think Giants are definitely the 4th seed when it comes to this. They are a win behind, but also just the way they play. I don't think they're going to be able to, put 25 plus points on many teams. But I think Washington are a genuine smoky chance. They've got a pretty good run game going at the moment, and their defense will keep them in pretty much every game they play. So, yeah, Philly don't pull their finger out. Washington could. Imagine if the Washington football team makes playoffs. That would be absolute humor. But yeah, that probably would even be ideal for the franchise. They probably want one of those top 3 quarterbacks who are all probably going top 5. So
yeah, definitely.
We might start seeing them, put the brakes on a little bit in the coming weeks. But yeah, Philly, Dallas, as you mentioned earlier, is going to be a huge indicator of where that division is at the moment. But yeah, it's absolutely crazy in the NFC East. What point do you want to make?
Well, my first point is kind of linked to the NFC East, but it's that Dak Prescott is officially a seriously good quarterback. There, I think over last season, especially, people were kind of saying that he was carried by his weapons, but it's clearly not the case. He's clearly a god, because without him, they've just, I know it's only been 2 games, but they've absolutely stunk without him. So I think people need to start respecting him a bit more, and he deserves to be paid the huge amount of money that he's asking for.
Yeah, and I think every week stuff like this happens. I think the likelihood of him getting the big bucks is increasing because, as you said, it makes him look even better.
He's probably loving this, that his own team's getting pounded each week.
Yeah, like I think last 2 seasons, because Dallas haven't been that great, I think, as you said, he's been copping the criticism. But I think same as this year, it's a lot more the defense than the offense. Like, they've just got to sort out both sides of the ball. You can't just play one side of the ball and just expect to be good. But yeah, Dalton and DiNucci coming in. Obviously, Dalton's only played 1 match and a quarter, but then got knocked out, so he probably can't fully assess his level yet. But yeah, they're not looking good at all. Whereas they were looking like a comfortable playoff option with Dak. Well, probably not comfortable, but a high scoring points machine. But yeah, I 100% agree with that call. I've got more of a question for you, mate.
Go ahead.
Do you think the NFC West can all make the playoffs?
Well, it's a spicy question. I don't know if it's like physically possible. I haven't done the math on it, but I'd say they deserve to. they're probably all in the top 7 teams in the NFC at the moment. But I don't reckon they will. I reckon 3 of them will.
Yeah, I think it is possible, but I think it will be tough because obviously at the back end of the year, a lot of the divisional matchups happen. But right now they all sit on at least 4 wins. So
if you were going to rank the 4 teams, how would you seed them?
See, San Fran's hard.
Impossible.
San Fran's an absolute mystery because some weeks they've looked like 2019, some weeks they've looked like 2018. Like it's just, well, to be honest, they weren't even that bad in 2018. I don't think. I think they did all right given Jimmy G's injury. But yeah, you know what I mean. They haven't looked great some weeks, and then other weeks they've looked really good, like they did on the weekend. The Rams' offense is, I think it's flying under the radar in terms of how bad it is. I think their defense is taking a lot of the attention away from them because they're not playing that well at the moment, which was highlighted by their match against the Bears. They did put up 24 against a fairly good defense, but I think they're kind of just scraping through it and they're almost becoming the 49ers, but worse in terms of their offensive play. They've kind of changed their style this year. I think you'd have to put Seattle first.
Yeah,
even though they cannot even though they can't defend, they could put up 30 plus against any team in the comp. Then it's hard to go past the Cardinals in number 2. Like, I know, yeah, I don't know. What do you think? If you had to do it, where would you have the Cards? Would you have them second? Or
I don't know. Seahawks definitely first, and then I'd probably go Rams, Niners, Cardinals, which might be bold, but I'll take the teams that have kind of shown they can do it already. Still a couple question marks over the Cardinals, although that win was pretty impressive.
Yeah, Cardinals, Rams, Niners. I think they're all very close. Like if you did a league-wide 1 to 32, I think they would be within like 5 of each other. Like that, I think they would be clumped together. But I think there is a good chance they all make it. I think their biggest threat is the Saints. But apart from that, I don't even know who's
Chicago
opting for the. They're so bad though. I don't know what their strength of schedule's like, but they have it's probably one of the worst 5-2s I've ever seen. They've been pretty horrid. They just can't score more than like 20 points.
What about Detroit?
Detroit. Like I know I just said they've got an easy schedule, but they haven't. They beat the Cardinals when they weren't playing that well, and then apart from that, they haven't had too many good wins. Obviously, NFC East isn't getting a wild card. Panthers and Falcons are pretty much out of it. I don't think the NFC North's getting a wild card. The Bears might get there just because they're realistically only 3 wins away from a wild card, maybe 4. But I think there's a genuine chance. I just don't know how it will work out with the matchups coming in at the end of the season. But yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one to watch because it would be pretty legendary if they all made it. Yeah. It'd be good fun to see, I reckon. Because oh, that's a lie. I don't really like watching the Rams, but I like the Cardinals, so I'd like them to make it. But yeah, what's your next point, mate?
I'll go with the Patriots. That they look absolutely cooked, and as of right now, I'd probably have the Dolphins seated above them in my power rankings, and I can't really see them making the playoffs unless they really turn it around.
Yeah, I was actually, that was one of my, I always, make a list of like 30 and then just have to eliminate like 25. But yeah, that was going to be one of mine. Can we put a line through the Patriots, do you think?
I'm not saying we're putting a line through them, but 2 weeks ago, they were looking like a given to make the playoffs, and now they're looking pretty unlikely.
Yeah, it's not looking good for the Patriots at all. I still think they'll finish above Miami.
Yeah, they should.
Just because they'll find a way. But yeah, the wild card's looking unlikely. They've got the AFC North is probably going to snag 2 wild cards. The AFC South and AFC West will probably get the other one, you'd think. But yeah, I can't really see a world where the Patriots make the playoffs from here. It would have to be a pretty remarkable turnaround. But in saying that, they do, they've got to play the Jets a couple times, I think. So, and probably Miami another time.
Yeah.
And I think they have to play the Bills twice again, they'll be pretty important matches because the Bills, they're a good team, but they haven't looked great the last couple of weeks. So their games, the Patriots could eye off a win, and then all of a sudden they're actually in the mix for the AFC East. So But yeah, I'd probably, if I had to put my money somewhere, I'd put a line through them, to be honest. Next up, I've got another question. Is Kyler Murray of 2020 as good as Lamar Jackson of 2019? I think even though he's had 2 huge primetime victories, I still think Kyler Murray's gone a little bit underappreciated this year. I think Wilson and Rodgers especially, and even Tom Brady, all balling out this year has kind of taken the attention away from the running quarterbacks. But Lamar Jackson, he was like the talk of every single week last year. Clear MVP favorite, won unanimously, which is like the first time in history that's happened or something. And like statistically, Kyler Murray is not that far away from him. I think he is something like 10 less rushing yards a game than Lamar last year, but 50 more passing yards. And they were both at this exact same 5-2 record at this time of year last year. And record has a huge like bearing on like the MVP. So I'm not saying Kyler's going to win the MVP, but do you think Kyler is actually as good as Lamar last year?
I think he's being underappreciated, but I don't think he's Lamar level of last year. I think his rushing is. He scored like 7 rushing touchdowns through 6 or 7 games, which is outrageous. But I think Lamar has him covered in the passing. Like Lamar was throwing like 4 touchdowns every week at some points last season. So I go Lamar.
And one thing Kyle's got is DeAndre Hopkins.
That's true.
Lamar did not have that, but I think in pretty much every other aspect of the team, Lamar is stronger. Like I think he had a lot better O-line, a lot better coach, lot better tight ends, better running game probably, and a better defense. But yeah, I think. Yeah, look, if I had to put my money on one of them, I'd probably still back in Lamar but I think that conversation needs to be started soon because, yeah, I think he's been overlooked a little bit, which is surprising because he's had 2 huge wins on the world stage in the last fortnight. So I don't really know what the media is saying about him, to be honest, but in my opinion, he's not getting enough attention. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, well, my last thing is I want to just bring up Herbert and Burrow. I want to see like how highly do you rate them so far? I know we've only followed the NFL closely for like 2 or 3 years. I don't know how long you've been following it for. So we haven't really seen much to compare them to. But from what I've seen so far, they look like they're going to be absolutely elite.
Well, yeah, 100%. Yeah, in the last few draft classes, Kyler had a pretty good rookie year, and Baker did a bit, showed signs. But apart from that, a lot of the high draft picks have kind of flopped. Like Darnold still hasn't really done anything. Danny Jones, he looked good the first couple of weeks, and then he started having like 6 fumbles a game. Blokes like Josh Rosen didn't really get even much of a look in. Josh Allen, although now, well, the last couple of weeks, not so much, but this year he was looking a lot better, but he had a slow start to his career where these two, they've just absolutely taken off, which is a credit to themselves, especially Burrow. Even though he's got a lot of good weapons, I'm quite impressed what he's been able to do with that O-line.
Yeah. I think Herbert's definitely in the better situation. Like the Chargers are a much better team and he has like Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry, a better O-line, I'm pretty sure. But they're both like, considering what they're not strong teams by any means, and they're putting up the same numbers as like Matt Ryan and quarterbacks like that.
Yeah, I think Herbert's is a lot down to the scheme though. Like it allows him to make a lot of big throws, but he's got to hit those throws, and he's been doing it time after time. So, and Herbert's played some of the best defenses in the league. Like he played the Bucks and did pretty well against them. So, yeah, very exciting times, and we're going to get to see Tua this week. Sadly, has the Rams first, which is quite a bit of it'll be an interesting watch. If he can do well against the Rams, he can pretty much do well against any defense at the moment. But yeah, excited to see how Tua goes. Could make this one of the all-time rookie draft classes in the QB position. But yeah, definitely frothing the way those guys are playing at the moment. My final point is I think the Buccaneers are the clear favorite in the NFC. I'm not quite sure if they're the AFC, like as good as the Chiefs. I think they're better than the Steelers personally. I think they're the most complete team in the NFL. Like the Chiefs, they're a better offense than the Bucks, but the Bucks' defense is a lot better than the Chiefs. I think they've shown it in quite a few back-to-back matches now. What they did against the Packers was sensational. What they did against the Raiders on the weekend was crazy. The weapons they have on offense is absolutely outrageous. Like, as you said, we haven't been following NFL that long, but I've never seen a team even close to it in terms of weaponry. They have added Antonio Brown. And I can't lie, I'm not the biggest fan of the maneuver. Obviously, as big fantasy players, we kind of automatically think of the fantasy impact it'll have. But in terms of the team, I don't really rate it. I think, like, to me, it's almost like don't fix what's not broken. Like, I think it's risky, even though it's pretty hard to lose anything by adding a world-class wide receiver. But for me, I just wouldn't really want to be touching like the perfect recipe, if you know what I mean. Even though it seems like a great pickup in concept, he's had so much drama over the last 2 years. I wouldn't really want that coming into my team personally, but Tom Brady seems to get along with him quite well, even though they only had 11 days at the Patriots together. What do you think? Do you rate the Antonio Brown pickup, or
Yeah,
are you worried about it?
I think it's pretty risky, but I mean, they're right in the Super Bowl window, so like, I guess why not just add probably one of the best wide receivers in the history of the game to your roster and just see what happens. I don't really think it'll negatively impact them on the field unless Antonio Brown gets into some more trouble with something off field. But yeah, I don't mind it.
Yeah, I think it's also another pro of the move is Evans has been injury prone the last like 3 seasons, and Godwin's been injury prone this year. So
yeah.
Although they have great weaponry, all of a sudden you take one of them out, OJ Howard's out for the whole season, then you're not looking as scary. But to have Antonio Brown as like a third wide receiver, basically, like, I'm sure some weeks he'll be the main man, but yeah, it's pretty crazy. I feel bad for Scotty Miller. Absolutely killed it on the weekend, and he's been looking pretty good all year, to be honest, and he's going to be probably the most impacted out of it. But yeah, very exciting for the Bucks. Looking forward to some more of their primetime matches, to be honest. I think they'll provide some interesting ones for us. But yeah, how do you feel about that? The Bucks being the best team in the NFC. Do you rate the Packers or Seattle over them, or do you like that call?
Well, I've got a huge soft spot for the Packers, so I'm going to back in Aaron Rodgers, but the Buccaneers did just pound them last week by like 28 points. So, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the odds had the Buccaneers as favourites at the moment.
Yeah, I just think
I'd have Seahawks third.
Yeah, I think Seahawks defense is not good enough. Packers defense, I think they've got time to improve it realistically. They know they're going to be there in January, so they've got time to improve that side of the ball. And if they do improve that, then I'll consider them in the conversation. But right now, if we had the playoffs right now, I think the Packers aren't good enough on defense. But yeah, they were good last year, so if they can get back to that level, I'm sure it'll be an interesting NFC playoff situation there. Is anything else you want to mention, or do you want to move on to the fantasy side of things?
No, let's get on to the fantasy.
All right. So first of all, to those who are new here, we do for QBs, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, we do the player of the week. And then in fantasy terms, we do rises and falls. So who's risen up the rankings, who's fallen down the rankings. And I've also written down here who is on the trade block in each position. So might have a little bit of a chat about the impact of a trade to one of those guys and who that could affect. But first of all, quarterback of the week, who are you going with here?
A couple to choose from, but I actually went with Kyler Murray.
Ooh.
I think the fact that they got up over the Seahawks in overtime was a factor. Like, he may not have had as good stats as like Mayfield, Burrow, or Herbert, but that was the deciding factor for me. And he did play an unreal match.
Yeah, he did play really well. Hit a few tight passes, which ultimately led them to getting there to OT. But yeah, huge win, huge primetime match. 100% great performance by Kyler. I've gone with the man you mentioned, Baker Mayfield, in my vote system. My 10-1 votes I do weekly. He picked up the 10 votes. 5 touchdowns. Yes, it was against a not so strong Bengals defense, but pretty impressive from Baker Mayfield. And that quick update on my QB rankings. Aaron Rodgers leapt ahead of the pack with Russell Wilson not polling this week. He was actually polling before OT, Russell Wilson. I was doing kind of live checks, and he actually went backwards because of overtime. So kind of dogged himself there. Should have tanked, and he might have got a few votes. But yeah, Rodgers is on 37 votes. Wilson and Tannehill are tied on 24. Lamar's sitting in 4th on 22, and Mahomes is sitting in 5th on 21.
That's a big lead for A-Rod.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to see him, and I don't think they have any hard fixtures ever, so it's going to be hard to see him get chased down from here. But yes, who is your main QB riser of the week?
Gonna have to get around my man for this one, Joey Burrow. For me, he's a QB1 going forward. Low-end QB1, but he's in the top 12. He's in the top 12.
Okay,
he's
12.
Yeah, he's got unreal weapons, and he just looks the goods. Like, the Bengals offense actually looks pretty decent. I know they beat it was against the Browns, but you know, he can rush. He scored 3 rushing touchdowns. He can pass. So yeah, he's definitely up the rankings.
Yeah, he is 100% looking like a spicy contender, and anyone who doesn't mind a rushing TD like Joey is always instantly spicy. Yeah. And like, I know it's not dynasty here, but he does have like a lot of upside, should improve week after week like most rookies do. So yeah, pretty spicy prospect, should be firing for the playoffs. My riser, I've actually gone my own player as well. This is probably an unpopular opinion, but I actually have Drew Brees as a riser of the week. Coming into this, he just had a pretty crap year, really, in fantasy terms. I was so high on him in the preseason because I adjusted his season last year for injuries, because he had a couple games where he had played 10% of the match or something. So I adjusted for those, and I ended up having him as the second highest average of all of last year, and he'd been letting me down so far, but bounced back with a 23.68 against a decent Panthers defense. That was without Thomas and Sanders. Callaway kind of took the number 1 receiver position, and they just played as if it was Thomas. He showed he still got it. He's not relying on those guys. And he was probably on track for 30, but then the game script kind of killed him. They just ran the ball for the whole second half. A rushing TD did help him, but realistically, if you're in that kind of position on the field, he probably normally would have had a passing TD. That's only a loss of 2 points. So you don't have to be scared about that boosting his score a lot. But yeah, I'm really happy with Drew Brees. And as an owner of Ryan Fitzpatrick, who got benched for Tua, and Brees was my QB 2/3, wherever I had Fitzy above Brees. But yeah, pretty glad that he's kind of getting back to his reliable QB level. And I think I'm going to be pretty happy with him sitting in the super flex position for the rest of my season. So yeah, Brees is my riser of the week. Anyone else you want to mention in the risers, mate?
Yep. Tom Brady. Pretty obvious one here, but the whole Buccaneers offense just looks unreal, and he's adding Antonio Brown in week 9, I believe. So hard to see him not being a top 6, top 8 quarterback going forward from here.
Yeah, we sometimes get caught in the trap in our league. To those listening for the first time, we have a pretty fairly rookie league. There's a lot of us who have only played 2 or 3 years. Some people, this is their first season. But yeah, we have about 2 or 3 guys who are basically inactive on the game, and Brady is with one of those owners. So it's kind of sometimes easy to overlook those guys because we know we can't get them. But yeah, Brady's absolutely balling out. I was quite low on him in the preseason because I just didn't like the uncertainty around him. But to those people who gambled on him, he has definitely rewarded them. And yeah, certified QB1 at the moment, and doesn't look like slowing down anytime soon. And they've added Antonio Brown, which in theory should only improve his chances of being an elite fantasy QB this season. Now into the falls of the week. I'm sorry, Pilch, but I've actually gone your man, Matt Ryan.
Yeah, I thought about going him, but yeah,
Yeah,
go on.
he got like, I can't lie, this was a bit of a rush job, so I kind of just picked the first bloke I saw with a bad score, but he got 17.5 against a pretty vulnerable Lions, and his receiving core was at full strength. He's had a few poor scores, but you could kind of put that down to some injuries in the offense, but well, their O-line sucks anyway, but like their receiving core in those games were down. The troops were down, but yeah, this match they were all back, and he's whipped out 17.5, which is pretty disappointing. Were you disappointed as an owner?
Yeah, look, I would have been hoping for more against the Lions. Unfortunately, your man Todd Gurley stole a couple touchdowns off him, which he's been doing quite often this season. But yeah, I don't think he played that badly, but he's probably going to drop a couple places in my rankings as well.
Yeah. And next up, he's got the Panthers, who have shown to actually be a fairly decent defense, except against the run.
Yeah, I'm worried about that one.
And Denver after that. So, and I think he might actually have the bye after that. So not the greatest run of fixtures for Matty Ryan coming off. Well, I think he had one good score in there, but he's had quite a few bad scores over the last month. So worrying times, but he's not being traded anywhere. There were rumors about Ryan and Julio both leaving, but the Falcons came out and said they're not moving them this season, maybe in the off season. Same podcast I was talking about earlier with Cam Newton, were also toying with the idea of Matt Ryan to the Bears, but yeah, pretty sure they're both staying put in Atlanta. Sadly, they have the short week this week against the Panthers, which is never really ideal for a fantasy player or a fantasy owner. But yeah, here's my fall. I can't lie, he's probably not falling down my rankings that much. So, but yeah, who are your falls?
Same match, Matt Stafford of Detroit Lions. I think he scored 18 points, but to be honest, he's been a pretty heavy letdown all season. Like, he's only averaging 17 points per game, which is in the bottom half of quarterbacks in the league. And same argument with Ryan against a shocking Atlanta defense. You probably would have hoped he'd score a bit more. He's not playing badly like in real life, but just isn't really producing the fantasy numbers. So I don't think we can look at him as a top 12 man at this stage.
Yeah. Carry-on Johnson, that is, got injured last year, and I think they basically just turned to throw always. But this year they definitely seem to be running first, which has not helped Stafford's case,
especially
as a
on the
fantasy
goal line.
QB. Yeah, 100%. And look, if Gurley didn't stuff that up on the weekend, if he didn't fall over the end zone, take that last drive away from him, and he's just got double digits, because he went like 80 yards on that drive with the passing TD. That's, just like around 7 points. So yeah, pretty horrible show from Stafford. I'm pretty lucky. I think I traded for him about a month ago, because he had a really, really easy run of fixtures, and I don't think he's cracked 20 once in the run of fixtures. So very glad the owner of Stafford rejected that one. But yeah, really disappointing. Really disappointing from Stafford all season, to be honest. I was quite high on him in the preseason.
Yeah, same here.
Anyone else you want to mention?
No, already mentioned Newton. That's it.
All right, perfect. Now the guys on the trade block, the QBs, it's a little bit less relevant. No one's really going to trade for a QB, but Jameis, would you pick up Jameis if he went to somewhere with a bad QB? Would you go for him
in fantasy?
Yeah.
All right, give me a team.
The Jets.
No.
The Giants.
Nah.
The Bears.
They're all disgusting, but out of those three, probably the Bears would be the most favourable.
Right. Yeah, realistically, I don't think Jets or Giants are going to be trading mid-season. It's more the teams up there.
I don't think Danny Dimes, not Darnold as well, but especially Danny Dimes, I don't think they're bad quarterbacks. They're just in shocking offenses that just cap their ceilings.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think Jameis would be doing any better.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And then the other guys, I don't really want to get into the QBs. This section's more relevant for the other posies, but Haskins, Darnold, and Tyrod Taylor are all on the trade block. So interesting to see where they go. Another question before we get into the running backs. Where do you stand on picking up players in hope they get traded? An example of this, David Njoku. He showed glimpses this year, and I think in 2018 he was he might have even been a top 5 tight end, definitely top 10. He's on the trade table. As I just mentioned, only good teams are likely to trade for a player at this stage because they're going to need to shell up a pick for it. That a team down the bottom of the table isn't going to sacrifice that. Do you think it's worth a roster spot if there's like rumors of someone getting picked up, or are you not about that life?
Well, we play in a 10-man league with a pretty short bench, only 6 men on the bench. So I'd say in our league, probably not. But if you're in a league with like 8 to 10 men on the bench, then I don't see why not. Just shoot for a bit of upside.
Yeah, because there are a few guys. There's a few guys it'll negatively affect. Like I know there's rumors of Thielen going somewhere, and he'll probably be the wide receiver too. But yeah. All right, moving on to running backs. Running back of the week, mate. Is this unanimous? Jeff Wilson Jr. or Senior, whatever his name is. Is it unanimous?
It is not unanimous.
Oh, all right.
I'll with my newly acquired man,
James Robinson.
James Robinson.
Yeah, very fair enough. In my my votes for running back of the year, they were the top 2. Wilson picked up 10. Robinson picked up 9. Wilson was pretty incredible. Like he got injured in the third quarter, I think, and he had 112 yards.
He scored 3
touchdowns, 3 rushing touchdowns. The Patriots just could not stop him. It's always an absolute gamble which 49ers running back it is going to be. I think a lot of people picked up Jerick McKinnon, hoping it was him. And Jeff Wilson's, he took like the first 3 runs and you knew straight away, he's like, yep, McKinnon's not touching the footy, is he?
What's with 49ers running backs and just averaging 12 yards per carry? Like
their O-line must be insane.
Patriots are meant to be a good run defense this season. I think, did they have a couple players out or something?
I don't know. The Patriots is just an absolute mess all over the park.
Yeah, but it's outrageous.
Yeah, but yeah, the things they do, like, Mostert was actually looking like a pretty good fantasy option this year because last year they didn't really have a nailed on starter, but it looked like Mostert had taken the role this year. But his injuries have allowed everyone else to ball. And I think Tevin Coleman's coming back this week, but people don't know if it's going to be Hasty, McKinnon, Coleman. Like it's all just an absolute gamble. And the thing is, you don't want to go near it, but it's like a guaranteed 20 if you pick the right guy. So it's guesswork, but it's fun guesswork. But yeah, James Robinson absolutely killed it. Do you want to talk about him, or do you want me to talk about him in my rises of the week?
No, well, he's in my rises as well, so we'll just transition into.
Oh wait, I'll quickly just say my running back rankings before we get into it. Kamara's still on top, 32 votes. Derrick Henry's down on 21. Zeke's on 19. Lucky, his first month's carried him there. And then Cook and Gurley are actually tied on 17 votes in 4th position. But yeah, James Robinson, riser of the week for me. First game in 4 weeks of over 4.5 yards per carry, which was the main reason why I traded him to you for you to copy his 31 or whatever he got. But yeah, 4 receptions yet again. He's done that 5 times. He's had 4+ receptions in 5 matches in a row, which is ideal for fantasy. Say he gets, 7 to 8 yards per catch. He's looking at double digits just from receiving alone. And he's obviously the main back there. No one else really gets a look in. So he's probably got one of the highest floors going around in the NFL fantasy landscape. 2 touchdowns, 1 in the air, 1 on the ground. They've got the bye this week, which isn't ideal, but then they've got Houston and Green Bay, which is pretty tasty. Both have allowed quite a few yards per carry. I think Houston are the worst.
Yeah, Houston suck against the run.
Mainly because of Derrick Henry's 200 has ruined them there, but Green Bay are also, I believe, in the bottom 12 for that one. And yeah, he's really the only way the Jags can score. Like DJ Chark, Shenault, they've taken a few grabs each, but they don't really trust Minshew's arm, so the play caller just goes to Robert every time. And yeah, probably one of the worst trades going around. Cheers, boys.
By you?
Yeah, anything else? Yeah, by me.
Well, should we tell the viewers the details of the trade?
Yeah. So, well, it has to be said, it's been in the making for a long time. I've had Robinson at least like 10 spots below the consensus rankings for like a month now. And I just hated his yards per carry. He's been struggling against blokes like Detroit, I can't remember who else he struggled against. Like he's been having 3.5 yards per carry, and I just hated it. Normally a lover of volume, but this year I've tried to change a little bit. But yeah, I shipped him off for Terry McLaurin, who did well, I have to say. But yeah, it was rough to see, especially against the Chargers defense, who's quite decent. So
Yeah.
it was tough to see that 5.6 yards per carry. But
Yeah.
well done, mate. You won that one. Fair play. 1-0 to you. We go again.
I wouldn't say that straight away, because Terry McLaurin for me is another riser, and I'd probably put him in the top 12 wide receivers going forward.
Yeah, it is true. But the thing is, my team, I didn't need a wide receiver. I had Deontay Johnson as my wide receiver 3, where now I've got Montgomery as my 2, and my 3 I just picked up off the waivers. So it's not looking good for me. But yeah, any other risers of the week you want to mention in this posse?
Yeah, it's Chase Edmonds is a huge riser this week. Kenyon Drake going out. Drake, people are probably going to think that Edmonds is going to have Drake's role, which will see him average about 12. But the fact is, Edmonds is going to be out there every single snap now. He's going to be copping Drake's rushing and his own passing from before, which was like 6 receptions every week. So I'm genuinely expecting him to be a top 10 running back while Drake is out. And then when Drake comes back, we don't even know if he'll get his spot back, because I think Edmonds is more talented.
Yeah, I think Edmonds will still... I think he'll lose some snaps, some carries to Drake, but I think it might be a little bit like the Melvin Eckler situation of last year, where Eckler, even when Melvin came back, remained to be one of the top running backs just because of his receiving workload, similar to James Robinson. Edmonds even gets more action in the air, so he has such a high floor because of that. And then if you're going to add some running, hopefully some red zone attempts, which would be very juicy to see. But yeah, on a great team as well, who are moving up the field at ease at the moment. So definitely very spicy. He's averaged over 11 yards per carry. This was on the weekend, sorry. He had averaged 11 yards per carry against Seattle, who were a top 10 rush defense. And he had 87 yards from 7 catches. So he's not only getting volume, he's getting like a lot of bang for his buck there. So definitely a huge riser.
And this is the same match when Drake, I'm pretty sure, averaged 1.9 yards per carry in that same match. And then Edmonds just came out and averaged like 11, as you said.
Yeah, I don't really know what to think of their O-line, because I've just assumed it's been bad because of Drake's yards per carry, but maybe Drake just sucks. I don't know. Maybe it's a combination.
I think it's middle of the road O-line.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. Faller of the week, though. Do you want to mention anyone here?
Oh, yeah.
Well,
there's a huge one. Zeke Elliott, just purely because his offense just sucks without Dak Prescott, and he hasn't really looked like getting anywhere near the end zone. So I don't really view him as that top 4 guy anymore at all.
Yeah, Zeke's been nuked. I actually feel bad for his owners. I think in the long run, he's not going to be like outside a top 10 running back or anything outrageous like that. I think he's going to get a lot of dump offs. But yeah, at the moment, the touchdown scoring potential has dropped so far off the surface.
And their O-line's gone to shit. I think 3 of them are injured, so he's only averaging like 3 yards a carry now.
Yeah, and Pollard's seeing a little bit more action. Yeah, it's not good times for the owners. I was saying to you, it's not good at all, because like now you're all of a sudden down to the level where like I don't even know if Dalvin Cook owners would accept Zeke for Dalvin Cook. Like
no chance.
Like no chance you'd get Zeke for him, no chance you'd get Kamara, no chance you'd get Matt McCaffrey. So he's definitely sliding down quickly. You probably wouldn't even get Aaron Jones at this level. Now, I have an announcement to make. This is probably irrelevant to the viewers, but there's just been a trade in our league. Myles Gaskin for Mike Davis, Devin Singletary, and Nyheim Hines. I think that's a bit of a strange one, because I don't know if any of those running backs are actually good. How's Devin Dingleberry still on the bloody list?
Gaskin's a beast.
So I don't really...
just robbed Noz there.
Yeah, I know. So my first follower of the week is actually Christopher Carson. Yes, it's a bit stiff because he did get injured, but he left the game early because of that, and then Hyde flourished when he left. This was my concern in the preseason. I had Carson lower than quite a few people, and it was because of Carlos Hyde. I think he's been injured so far this season, which is why he hasn't been getting any action. But yeah, when he came into the game, he really did well, was getting quite a few yards per carry. And yeah, Carson, although he'd been pretty elite, he'd shocked me a little bit of how good he had been in the first 6 weeks of the season. Now I'm a bit scared that the committee might come back for Seattle and lower Carson's, ceiling a little bit. I don't think he's going to be bad. I think he's still probably an RB starter, but I don't think he's an RB1 anymore. And yeah, he's on a great team in terms of scoring, which is always a huge positive for Carson. But I think Hyde's going to take a lot of his, well, not a lot of it, but I think he will definitely be getting a lot more of the share when Carson comes back from injury. But yeah, anyone else you got here?
I'll do have one more, and that is, this one's kind of a surprise because we were raving about him last week, but Ronald Jones,
yeah,
for some reason, he's looked absolutely elite the last 3 weeks, including this week, and then Fournette just came back and played off his face, which...
Like, we legit said it, didn't we? Like 5 minutes in to the Tampa game.
Yeah, Ronald Jones, top 10 running back, because he...
Yeah, we said that. And then by halftime, he's outside the top 30.
Yeah, Fournette's, like, it's a committee, but Fournette's the one getting the valuable fantasy touches. So, I don't know. They're kind of...
Yeah.
Just yuck.
Yeah, if you can try and trade him, it's probably not a bad shout if you have him, because I think you'd still probably get overs for him on the market. But worst what comes to worst, I still think he's worth starting. Like, I still think, even just because how good that team is in the scoring, a bit like Carson, I can't see him dropping off the face of the earth. But Fournette owners are probably in a bit of a pickle now. Do you start him? Do you not? It's probably worth starting him now. But yeah, my other floor of the week is Josh Jacobs.
Yep.
I actually versed Carson and Jacobs this week, so it shows that I got a little bit lucky with who I was versing. But a 6.1 from a supposed top 10 running back. I don't care who it's against, even though it was against Tampa, who have only allowed like 3 yards per carry. It's not good enough. He just died. Like, I think they were kind of resting him because the game was over, but Rashad took over, which is not a complete worry. Like, I don't see Rashad taking snaps from him really, but it's not ideal. But yeah, not good enough at all. The game script didn't suit him, and at this point, that kind of seems to be what Jacobs needs to do well. As soon as the game script goes against him, he seems to do pretty bad. So, yeah, he's definitely been pretty disappointing this year, I'd have to say. People were expecting the progression, natural progression of a second-year player. Maybe he could even push for top 5 with the amount of volume he gets. But yeah, he's been far from that so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, disappointing for Josh Jacobs owners.
I'm pretty worried about Jacobs because obviously he's an elite talent, like easily a top 8 running back in the NFL, but he did not play a single third down snap for the last 2 weeks, I believe.
Really?
So he's pretty much completely reliant on versing a shit team where he'll get 20 carries, go for 100 yards. Because otherwise, like, I don't even know if he's... Like, would you put James Robinson above Jacobs going forward?
No.
I know that's touchy for you, but
yeah, no, I don't know. I haven't looked at it. I haven't looked at it yet this week. I haven't really, like, at the end of the day, it was against the Bucks, but yeah still a huge worry.
You can't expect to go big against them, but
yeah, but I do think the Raiders this year are throwing it way more than they were last year, which is not good for Jacobs. But yeah, worrying signs for Josh Jacobs owners. Just a quick question. We don't have too much time left because I've got a quiz to get to. But it always runs late, so we've got time. We won't rush to this best part of my week. But this is a strange question, tough to quantify. How do you value injured players, Christian Pilcher, in fantasy? I've struggled with this a lot. But do you have any tips to the people out there who are listening to this? Well, this will probably be in a clip maybe. But is there like a little formula you have? Is there, if they're out for 4 matches, they drop this many rankings? Because I've struggled with it. I've kind of reached the point where because I'm behind in terms of win record, if they're out for more than 2 weeks, I don't bother. Like, I completely disregard them.
Yeah.
But
fair.
If you have a winning record, I would say cash in. But that's where I'm at this point. If you have a winning record, go for them and just think about their average. If you have a losing record, steer clear. But yeah, I don't really know how to take them in. Do you have any tips?
I've got no formula, but personally, I'm pretty obsessed with just having an elite team on paper. So I've been sending offers every week for Eckler and Nick Chubb, even though they're probably going to play about 2 games this season. But as you said, depends hugely on like your scenario in your league. If you're 1-5, you're not going to be trading for them.
Yeah, because I'm a pretty statistical guy, so I just look at their statistics, and then all of a sudden injuries is something you can't really statistically, measure. So I find it really hard. I hate it. Like I was going for Eckler a few weeks ago, and then I stood back. And I'm like, I'm on 1 win here. I can't have a premium running back sitting on the bench for 6 weeks.
Yeah,
it's definitely the hardest part of fantasy for me.
You definitely wouldn't compromise your starting players for them, I'd say. It's probably a simple rule.
Yeah, because we saw it this year, didn't we, with Michael Thomas? The owner of Michael Thomas in our league basically didn't drop him down in his perception at all. Basically held him to the standard he had going into that week. And then I was in a podcast and people were, trading in AJ Brown for Michael Thomas. And I was like, this is like just completely 2 ways to fry a fish. But it's a tough question. We didn't really provide any answers, did we? My best tip would be depends on your situation. If you're losing, like you need wins, don't bother. But if you're winning, I think it's quite a smart strategy and prep for playoffs, basically, even if it means few losses in the short term. All right, wide receiver time. Wide receiver of the week. Unfortunately, Devontae Adams missed out.
Yeah.
But he got pipped by probably the highest scoring 9-vote performance you'll see in my wide receiver of the year. But yeah, Tyler Lockett whipped out an unreal match, 200 yards from 15 receptions, 3 touchdowns, caught a few long bombs from Big Russ. Anything else you want to add?
Nah, the stats say it all. Like Devontae is very stiff. He'd win it any other week, but it's got to be Lockett.
Yeah, Lockett copped the 10 ahead of Adams. A quick wide receiver ranking update. Lockett's now on top on 20 votes. He's had 2 10s, I believe. Jefferson's second, so there's still a lot of like 2 or 3 performances carrying these blokes. Jefferson and Adams tied on 19, Ridley on 18, and Thielen in 5th on 17. Wide receiver rises. Do you have him in the rises?
Yeah, I think it's tough not to have him as a riser.
Yeah, we probably should mention him.
We saw after his last big game that he scored like 5 and 6 the next 2 weeks, but I mean he's in the Seattle offense. He's going to get bulk. He's going to get bulk looks, bulk touchdowns. So
yeah, I think Metcalf owners and Lockett owners are just going to have to accept they're not going to go big every week.
I think I'd still rather Metcalf.
Yeah, I'm happy with. I have Metcalf. I traded him from the other week. I'm pretty even after watching Lockett's clinic. I'm not too fussed. I think it's just a matter of whoever does well 1 week, they're going to get the coverage next week or in 2 weeks' time. So I think it's going to go back and forward as to who's the main man. But yeah, I think they're both great options in the long run. I think they'll both average quite a lot. I think there's both good chances to be in the top 10. But yeah, I think in the short term, there might be a little bit of inconsistency, but I think just wait it out with both of them. But yeah, Tyler Lockett's a huge riser this week. I think everyone was thinking DK's now the number 1. No one really saw this coming, and he whips that out. So absolutely smashing it, Tyler Lockett. I just realized I didn't read the trade block people for running backs, but I just looked through them. They're all absolute myths, so who cares? My other riser of the week is Tyler Boyd. He had 7 red zone targets, which... as you know, I was talking to you about this. I just found a website that gives me week-to-week red zone target stats, which I've been looking for about a month. But yeah, in his 27.74 against the Browns, who are a fairly good pass defense, have a pretty good secondary. He had 7 red zone targets. The second most last week was 4. So that just shows how outrageous that is. The Browns coming into a quality pass defense, as I just mentioned. They've got Tennessee this week, who have been one of the worst defenses in the league so far. Joe Burrow is improving week after week. And I think the rise of T. Higgins is likely going to help Boyd out. I think after last year's breakout, he would have been seeing a lot more coverage. But now Higgins is breaking out. AJ Green's back. I think Boyd's got a lot more freedom in that offense, and it's seeming like Burrow trusts him most in the clutch situations. So, Boyd, I'm sure he's rostered in pretty much every league, but to those Boyd owners, they're probably laughing right now because I think he's risen a lot this week.
Yeah.
Who have you got? Who have you got here?
I've gone with Jarvis Landry because of Odell's torn
Yeah.
ACL. He's now the alpha in the offense. He's not going to be I don't think he's going to be someone who you're going to want to start necessarily, but I'd definitely be trying to buy him low. Like, he's definitely jumping up. He'll start seeing more targets.
Yeah, like think about last year. Odell was playing he hardly played last year. He was pretty irrelevant. And Landry was, I think, like the 18th or 19th best wide receiver at the end of the season. So if you can equal that production, 100%. You're laughing, Landry owners. He's probably sitting on a bench out there, cold, isolated, and now he's going to be moving into that starting lineup, you'd think, and cutting shapes for you. So yeah, I'd be very toy. Also, Rashard Higgins on a lesser note, probably worth a pickup. I think you'd be on pretty much every waivers out there, but he's one of Baker's favorite targets. Had a great week last week, so yeah, I think he's probably worth picking up as well. I might be picking him up tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. Fallers of the week. Who have you got here?
I've got a bit of a double here. Well, pretty much the whole trio in Dallas: Gallup, Cooper, and CD Lamb. Especially Gallup and CD Lamb. I think they're gonna struggle a lot going forward without Dak. Cooper's still operating as the clear alpha, so he'll get peppered. He's definitely a faller as well, but yeah, Lamb and Gallup, I probably wouldn't even want a bar of this season.
Yeah, Gallup's like so far down my rankings.
I'm pretty sure they both scored 0 on the weekend.
Really? Yeah, Gallup was like my number 60 or something last week. Like, I'm not interested at all. Yeah, great shout. My faller is Stephon Diggs. I was so high on Diggs coming into this week. He was like my number 5, I think, excluding Michael Thomas. But yeah, his yards per catch has been sub 10 2 weeks in a row now. His volume remains huge. He had 11 targets, but he only had 6 receptions. So the accuracy of Allen, the scoring potential of the team, and the yardage from his receptions, they're all starting to worry me. They're all negatively trending, and it's not good signs for Diggs owners because you thought he was going to be a safe wide receiver, one kind of lock away situation. But yeah, they do have 2 nice matches coming up. But yeah, definitely a watch out for Diggs. I think the John Brown return might help Diggs though, because I think it might make more space in that secondary for him. But yeah, Diggs is probably not as good as I was thinking coming into this week, but who knows? He might bounce back in the next fortnight. Do you have another faller here?
Mike Evans. Just touch on him quickly. I think he's kind of looks a bit cooked. I think he's still dealing with a hammy or something. But
why don't they just sit him out for a month? I don't get it.
Yeah, like, they should.
They're making the playoffs. Who cares? Like, I hate what they're doing. Like, that match, I don't remember what match we saw, but there was a match on prime time and he was legit like walking. It's like, why is he out there? But yeah, carry on.
Yeah, I'm pretty worried with Antonio Brown coming in because Godwin will stay in the slot, so he'll keep his role. But Evans, I mean, depending on how good AB is, he'll probably become the third man in Tampa, which is never good. You never want to be the number 3 receiver. Like, it'll pretty much make him irrelevant for fantasy.
Yeah, he's got to become like a tight end, isn't he? Just needs a touchdown to get above 10.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah, I agree with that call. And just he's so injury prone. I'm glad I've never touched Mike Evans in fantasy footy. Trade block, probably won't go into it too much because we are under time constraints here, but there's a lot of juicy ones on the wide receivers. So if you're a fantasy diehard, keep your ear close to the pulse because there's news coming out every day. And as we mentioned with Odell Beckham, like, things can change like for a player in a flash. So keep an eye out. The guys on the block, the main guys, Julio, we've talked about Atlanta have said that's not happening, but you never know. AJ Green's also been talked about leaving. The Houston trio of Will Fuller, Brandon Cooks, and Kenny Stills, Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, Alshon Jeffrey, and John Ross. So it could benefit your players negatively or positively. But yeah, really keep an eye out for that. I'm quite scared of Brandon Cooks leaving Houston, to be honest. I might try and trade him this week if I can, because I don't like the uncertainty of him going. Because realistically, these players are probably going to go to a good team, which will probably see Cooks be like the wide receiver 3. So yeah, hopefully going to get some value for him this week because I'm quite scared of the trade. But yeah, moving on to the tight ends, mate.
Yeah.
Tight end of the week, I've gone with Harrison Bryant.
Yeah.
He
Same.
caught 2 touchdowns, 56 yards. It's his rookie year, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a relatively high round draft pick for a tight end. He picked up my 10 votes. He did benefit a lot from Hooper being out, has to be said, but week after week he's getting more snaps, so it looks like he's going to become one of Baker's favourite targets. But yeah, is he your tight end of the week as well?
Yep. It was pretty yuck for the tight ends this week, I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah. 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, blokes were getting in the votes with like 43 yards and no touchdowns. It's pretty weird. But yeah, the tight end rankings, Travis Kelce's on top with 34 votes. Mark Andrews, second, 26. Jonnu Smith, third with 24. Darren Waller, the riser of the week in my voting, fourth on 23. And then Kittle rounds out the top 5 on 20. But yeah, all the big names had a bit of a quiet week this week, except for Darren Waller. But yeah, tight end riser of the week. I'll go first because I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. All right, I don't know how to say this. Actually, I'll say the trade block first. So because I'm keen for my riser, I want to save it. So Njoku's apparently going somewhere. So keep an eye out for that. There's rumors that Arizona want a tight end. So if Njoku got to Arizona, all of a sudden that's a very spicy prospect. Everett is looking to go elsewhere. Evan Engram is another one that's very spicy if he goes to a good team with no tight end. Zach Rudolph, Herndon and Fells, they're pretty irrelevant, but yeah. And fun fact, did you know Zach Ertz, he had offers from the Packers and the Ravens before he went on to IR, and now
Really?
he's not leaving. Yeah, now he's not leaving because of IR. But late October, like about a week ago, yeah, the Packers and Ravens both made offers for him.
Mate, imagine he went to the Packers.
Yeah, he would have become like the wide receiver. Like he legit could have overtaken like Waller and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's crazy. Risers of the week. Look, I don't know how to say his name, but Albert Okwegbenham. I feel bad. That's kind of disrespectful that I'm laughing at it, but my name's long as well. It's about 15 letters, so I can laugh at that shit. All right, round 4 pick in the draft this season. He went to Missouri, which is the same college as Drew Lock did. And I did a bit of digging, and they played 2 years together, 2017 and 2018. In both those years, the big AO, as they call him, was Lock's top touchdown receiver in both seasons. He scored 17 across the 2. Fant missed week 6, and the AO saw 6 targets and caught 2. So you were kind of just like, yeah, he's no good. It's just because Fant's out. But then again, this week, Fant came back, had about 70% of the snap count. So he wasn't like limited or anything. And the AO went 7 from 7, 60 yards. He's had 3 red zone targets in his 2 matches, and it was against the Chiefs defense, which is pretty good. So, yeah, I'm very high on the AO. I'll be picking him up in free agency once we get off this potty, because Dalton Schultz let me down on the weekend. He was close to my 4 of the week. But yeah, Big Albert, I'm excited for what he could produce. Realistically, he's not that relevant in fantasy. He's not really a tight end one, is he? But if you've got a spare spot on your bench, why not pick him up? He might have some upside. He's young. But yeah, just thought I'd get around the big AO. And I like that Missouri connection. Rises of the week for you in this position.
Must say, if you pull that call off, that'll be call of the century if he becomes a god. I know absolutely nothing about him, but keen to see him. I hope he balls out. Riser of the week. I'll leave your man for you. I'll go TJ Hockenson.
I don't have a man. So
okay, well my 2 are Gronk and TJ Hockenson. Gronkowski kind of seems like a top 6 tight end at this point. Like the Brady connection looks real on that insane Bucks offense. So it'll be touchdown city for the Gronk. And another good game for Hockenson. Same sort of thing. He's pushing for that top 6 type range now. So both look
we
good.
predicted that one, didn't we?
We did.
Preseason, we were high on him. My 4 of the week is Jonnu Smith. I was pretty low on him coming into it. I think I had him down at like 17 or something, and everyone else had him like top 5. So I'd like to get around myself for that one. But yeah, I just don't like his volume. He's only seen like 3 or 4 targets a week, and he's pretty much being carried by touchdowns. But on the weekend, he had 70% of snaps coming back from his injury. And he only touched the ball once. He had 4 targets, but yeah, only 1 reception for 9 yards, I think it was. And after the Bengals this week, which is a fairly decent matchup for him, they've got Chicago, Indy, Baltimore, Indy. So
It's rough.
4 very tough fixtures for them. And yeah, it's basically touchdown or bust at the moment for Jonnu. And yeah, I don't really want to bar of it personally. What about
Very
you in the
fair.
falls?
Yep, Jono as well. If he has another stinker this week, then I'll be very worried about him going forward. My other one's Robert Tonyan. Another very average week for him, and I think we can kind of say that his 3 touchdown week was a bit of a fluke. I don't really think he's relevant anymore.
Didn't Sternberger get a TD this week?
Yeah, Sternberger was pretty involved.
So they're just kind of sharing the role,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was quite high on Tonyan. I was going to trade the Gronk for him a couple of weeks ago. After I picked up the Gronk, I had Tonyan 1 spot above him on the rankings. So
lucky he didn't pull the
trigger. I had Gronk high, so those saying it's a fluke that I haven't. You can't say that. Get lost. But yeah. That's it for the tight ends. Not really much more to say. Most irrelevant position in fantasy. Things to watch this week in the NFL. What are you looking at here, mate?
I only brought one thing for this section, but it's a pretty large thing. Oh, you've probably got it as well, but Tua Tagovailoa from the for the Dolphins. He's probably the spiciest. This is probably one of the spiciest things that we'll be looking out for all season this week. Tough matchup against the Rams, but I think everyone's pretty excited to see what he brings to the table. See if he can match it with Herbert and Burrow.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be on TV. Just looking at this fixture, there's about 8 games on at 5 a.m. or like 10, and they're one of them. So I haven't looked at the TV guide yet. Just looking at the fixture now, pointing out some big ones. New England, Buffalo. This will be New England's last test, really. If they show no signs of improvement here, we can put a line through them. And it's also a big game for Buffalo. They've been pretty poor the last 2 weeks. They got pumped by the Titans, and they only just beat the Jets on the weekend. But their defense does look back. They held the Jets just 4 yards in the second half or something like that. So huge game there. Detroit, we'll get to see if they're the real deal. If they can beat the Colts here, all of a sudden, then the ears prick up a little bit. We talked about their soft draw coming up after this one. So if they can get a win there, or at least be competitive against a good Colts team, that'll go a long way in their hopes. And then there's so many good games every week, far out. The Rams versus Dolphins, not only for Tua, but it's actually a pretty big game with playoff implications. If Miami lose here, we can probably start to write them out. And then if the Rams lose here, you could probably do the same there.
Is that in Miami?
Yep, in Miami. Tickets as low as $89 here, it says. Look at some of these ticket prices. You can get a ticket to the Bengals game for $24. To get a ticket to Pittsburgh Ravens, $378. So you've got to go to the random mythical games. Yeah, Pittsburgh Ravens, huge game for the Ravens. They've looked pretty bad so far this season. And Steelers are probably one of the most informed sides this season. And then last but not least, there's so many good ones, bloody hell. New Orleans, they could get Thomas back. We've said it about every time for the last month. And then the last 2, San Fran, Seattle, huge test for San Fran, see if their defense is any good this year. And then Dallas, Philly will probably clear up that NFC East picture for us on Sunday night footy.
Philly can't, is that? Like, surely.
Yeah, they can't. They bloody can't, mate. But yeah, thanks for joining us. If you've made it this far, wait, I've just seen the Ravens are $1.50 against the Steelers.
Where is it?
Baltimore, but like that's pretty strange, I'd think. But yeah, anyway, thanks for joining me, Pilch. As always, really appreciated it. To those who have got this far, really appreciate you going and moving forward. We're probably going to split this into 2 episodes because we have to limit on what we talk about because of time, which is annoying because I froth this chat. I hope you do as well, Pilch, because you're consigned to it by contract. But yeah, thanks for listening. Get around the potty, subscribe, like all that good stuff. And yeah, enjoy the rest of your week and enjoy week 8 of the NFL. Cheers.